Okay, recording in progress. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for our October webinar. So excited to get started here in just a second. First up, would love to introduce our speakers who will be taking it over in just a moment. First, we have Susan Kresnicka, the founder and president of KR&I, as well as Karis Eklund, the research manager at KR&I. So excited. They're going to be taking the reins here in just a second to walk through all things AI-powered customer fans, some really interesting research they ran on Dscout, and I'll just let them take it away in a second. But first off, before we get started, a couple of housekeeping things. I know that people are just starting to roll in, and if this is not your first Dscout webinar, this will probably be new to you, but if it's, you've been here for all of them, this is old news. So in terms of housekeeping, please interact with each other via the chat. I know that people love to connect and have lovely conversations there. But if you have specific questions for Susan and Karis, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom. We will only be looking for questions at the end via the Q&A section, so please ask there. A reminder, this session will be recorded, so no need to ask, no need to follow up with me. We will send it over to you this afternoon. And again, you'll get it in 24 hours. But as I'm getting ready to share or to switch my screen sharing abilities here, please drop in the chat, what are you a fan of? So many different things out there, but please drop in the chat, let us know. I'm going to stop sharing, and Susan, I will let you take it away.
Amazing. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We're looking forward to sharing our research with you today. Let me pray to the sharing gods and get our screen up and running. Just 1 second. Bear with me. Go to the tippy top. All right. And here we go. We are delighted to be here to share this work with you, talking about the AI-powered customer. And in our parlance, we are going to be, we think about fans, those customers who are really the most devoted and committed to your brands. And we are a full-service research and consulting firm quite devoted to the study of the topic of fans and fandom. We started studying the topic of fans and fandom way on back, actually started before this timeline, back in 2009, where I had an opportunity to do some foundational work when media companies were starting to acquire really major entertainment IP and trying to figure out the qualities of those entertainment brands that were most important to hold on to and never change. Things like major superhero IP or major space opera IP, things like that. During that time, I became convinced that there was something absolutely unique when you were talking to people who loved these stories and these characters the way that those participants did, and ran explorative, qualitative, and quantitative research for a couple of years. Over the last 10 years, Karis and the KR&I team and I have run so many different studies of fans and fandom, some of them syndicated and had much of the entertainment industry contributing to those studies and supporting them, as well as lots of custom studies about specific groups of fans and fandoms. And we are still doing all that type of research today. And I will tell you that even way back when, we started studying fans on Dscout. You could be asking yourself why focus on fans, and it would be a really fair question. And I think my answer would be, first of all, because most of us are fans. And back in our very first syndicated study, 2016 to 17, we started asking this basic qualification question, and it is, think about what it means to be a fan, including how that may or may not differ from liking something. With that definition in mind, your own definition, do you consider yourself a fan of anything? Yes or no? And if someone answered that question yes, we called them a fan. Back in 2016, in the United States, the rate of response to that question was 79%. We reran this last year, again, quantitative work, both samples. First sample was 8,000 in 2016, 12,000 last year, 2024. The rate's up to 83%. And we call that thing that anyone is a fan of an object of fandom. And we abbreviate that affectionately as OOF. And you'll see that abbreviation throughout this deck that I'm sharing with you. And objects of fandom are really special. They are special because they do two things at once. They reflect some facet of the self extremely effectively, so we feel seen in some way by this thing we love. And we feel elevated by it because this thing we love somehow impresses upon us what human beings are capable of. And so it provides this bit of lift, like this. I can't believe people are capable of this. Simultaneously reflective and elevating. You can see here the fanscape. This is just a breakdown of the types of things people are fans of. I'll tell you the only big change in the fanscape that I would call your attention to between 2016 and 2024 is that entertainment overtook sports as the primary category, high-level category of fandom. When we're talking about fandom, we're really talking about a love relationship. And this metaphor of a love relationship is a really effective one through which to think about all the stuff that fans do. So if you just ask yourself what we do when we're in love, you can answer what fans do, what kinds of practices they engage in, what kind of behaviors they're involved in. So first and foremost, we spend time with our beloved when we are in love, which are things like just simply consuming the content, listening to the music, playing the video game, watching this weekend's matchup. When we are in love, we learn everything we can about our beloved. We acquire knowledge. We want to know everything that happened to them in their lives, everything that happened to them that day, and fandom is no different. Fans are constantly acquiring knowledge about their fan objects. When we're in love, we want to talk about the one we love all the time. And fans do this constantly. They do it in person, they do it online, to the extent that we now have full-blown fan communities in a constant state of conversation online. When we're in love, we fantasize about our beloved, and fans are no different. They constantly are thinking about, imagining, and creating and expressing things about their objects of fandom, creating fan works like art and fan fiction, fan theorizing about what might happen next, all kinds of mental imaginative work that's focused on the object of fandom. When we're in love, we make a home with our beloved. We bring the things we love, our objects of fandom, into the material culture that surrounds us in our lives. We collect merchandise. We have different representations of the things we love throughout our homes and throughout our lives physically. And finally, when we're in love, we wear the ring. We're willing to tell other people how we feel about this thing we love, meaning we display our fan identities in all kinds of ways, from simply wearing a t-shirt to telling other people we're fans to getting tattoos of the things that we're fans of. Ultimately, fans derive truly meaningful benefits from their objects of fandom, from these love relationships. And those benefits fall into three main categories, psychosocial categories, taking care of the individual self, helping us forge connections and deepen connections with other people. But most importantly and most ubiquitously, fandom meets needs surrounding identity. So simply our understanding of who we are. And fandom is excellent at this because identity is multidimensional, highly so, far from the reduction it has been given in political discourse in the last 10 years. Identity is so much richer than any of that. And when we're fans, we can be fans of multiple things. In fact, on average, people are fans of about 5 things. And that's because there are so many different facets of identity that fandom can reflect effectively. Identity is complex. Our fandoms aren't always congruous with one another, reflecting all that complexity. Identity is dynamic. Our fandoms change, they wax and wane throughout our lives. Identity is both performed for others and private, and we display our fandom outwardly, and there's a way of being a fan that only we know inside ourselves. And finally, identity is inherently social. You can't even think about who you are except by using language, which is a social construct. And fandom, too, is an inherently social exercise. We only understand what any object of fandom means because we've all given it the shared meaning we agree upon. And ultimately, what happens is that fans invest in this relationship, this thing that they admire and feel seen through. And when they invest, they get benefits out of it. And the more benefits they get, the more they put back in, and you get this wonderful ROI flywheel that generates revenue for our businesses and incredibly meaningful benefits for fans. Over the last 20 years, the internet has radically changed fandom. It, prior to the internet, fans existed. They've existed for a very long time, but they had to express in more isolation and share their experiences with one another at things like fan conventions, through fanzines. Welcome the internet, and all of a sudden, fans can connect with one another across time and space. If you were a fan by yourself in some small town somewhere, all of a sudden, you found a world full of them. The internet allowed us to be exposed to all kinds of things that we could become fans of that we didn't even know about before. It made information and knowledge acquisition about our objects of fandom more accessible. It gave fan voices a place to come out and be realized and really be heard. Really importantly, it created a secondary social realm with unique demands for identity expression. You create an entire secondary social realm on social media where the individual comes in disembodied. How are you going to express all the unique facets of who you are on that platform? Fandom created an expanded lexicon of the self that allowed people to express who they are in all of these new social arenas. And finally, the internet normalized fandom in culture and society. If you were sitting at any fifth grade lunch table today, those kids would be able to tell you what fandom they are in. That is how normalized the concept has become. And we are on the brink of another real technological revolution when it comes to fandom. AI is poised to transform fans' experiences, and honestly, as we all know, the world around us, but fans' experiences and fandom itself once again. And I'm going to turn it over to Karis now.
All right, so let's talk about what we learned in this study. So we partnered with Dscout to conduct foundational research, meaning exploratory research, on the emerging role that AI is playing in fans' lives. And we really wanted to understand two things. One, how and why are fans currently using, but also envisioning using generative AI? And then two, what does this mean for the future of fans' experiences and fandom? And we'll often turn to Dscout for foundational research like this because we find it so helpful for learning about the role of something in everyday life. Because when you ask people about a particular behavior as it's happening, you get all of this additional information, what led to it, how it made them feel, what they did afterwards. And the data just winds up being really juicy, and you get all of this opportunity for unexpected insights. Okay, so how did we learn about this topic? We used a 4-step mixed method approach that started broad and got more focused as we went along and learned more. So first, we looked at online spaces to see how fans were actually talking or starting to talk about using AI. And then we fielded a screener survey through Dscout, we accepted 240 applications, all fans, no AI rejectors. And of that group, we selected 48 fans to enter a diary mission. In the diary mission, we asked participants to submit 2 entries, one just after they engaged with AI as a fan, and a second entry reflecting on the overall role of AI in their fan experience. And then finally, we selected 6 of those folks to bring into Dscout's live mission feature, where we interviewed them one-on-one in greater depth. And each step helped shape the next one. So for example, what we learned in the screener helped us write better questions for the diaries. And then the diaries, what we learned in the diaries helped inform who we chose to talk to in the remote IDIs. And so being able to adapt as we went along was super helpful because we didn't know what we were going to learn going in. Next, our next step is to actually field a quantitative survey so that we can get some projectable data on this. All right, so what did we learn? Okay, first we learned that this using these tools in the context of fandom was much more common than we'd originally thought. We fielded the screener survey over the summer, and way back then, already 74% of applicants had already used AI in relation to a fandom. And I'm sure that if you were to ask this question today, this number would be even higher. The data on the right comes from our screener survey. And gives you a sense, of what tools fans are using when they're talking about using AI. So predominantly conversational AI tools like ChatGPT. But it also, I think, gives you a sense of how we actually use the screener data and we tag it and we analyze it and we incorporate it into our research storytelling. It's really helpful for getting a baseline scale of whatever it is that we're studying. So this is just an example of that as well. The data on this slide also comes from our screener survey, and I think it just gives you a sense for how quickly these tools are getting adopted by fans. So almost half of the fans who applied to our study started using AI in relation to fandom within the past 6 months, 75% within the past year. And already, despite that recent adoption, a majority are using it on at least a weekly basis. And an overwhelming majority, 80%, say that it's improved their fan experience. So all of this suggests, I think, that once fans start experimenting with these tools, they're quickly finding value in it. That said, we're probably in the honeymoon phase, just like when you start a new relationship, it's all fun and games and lovey-dovey. But down the road, there are certainly going to be consequences, and it will be interesting to see how we start to grapple with the reality of, of what these tools do for us and to us. One of the first things that we saw early on in that screener survey was just how, with the tools being so new and adoption seeming to be so rapid, these tools are really getting incorporated into fans' experiences to varying degrees. So on the one hand, you might have someone like Brian on the left who calls it a side thing. He uses these tools occasionally if he's got a specific use case for it, or if he's bored and has free time. And then you have Kyle on the right, who is just starting to incorporate AI into his fan experience more regularly. But I think where we are in this moment right now is it very much seems to be a state of exploration and experimentation. When we asked fans in the screener how they're using AI, the top response by far was exploring or experimenting just for fun. All of that said, fans are pretty savvy. And so even though they may be new to these tools, they already kind of have a sense of what they want and what they don't want from them. And what they do want is a tool that feels like a smart, human-like companion. So someone who is going to give them information that is accurate and that's up to date. Someone who is attentive to what they say, who remembers what they say and then incorporates that into future conversations. Someone who can talk to them in a very natural, human-like way. And then finally, someone who's truthful with them and who will let fans know when the tool doesn't know the answer to a question or isn't really sure what the fan is asking. Okay, so how are fans using AI today? So in this study, we identified 6 different roles that fans are allowing AI to fill for them at this early stage of adoption. And we're going to walk you through them one at a time. So the first and probably the most common role, and potentially I think likely the most relatable to all of us on this call, is the role of AI as a teacher. So fans are using AI to essentially learn about their fandoms, whether that is summarizing a really complex IP, or explaining the rules to a game, or even translating related news. And I think this is something that, that fans could do through Google, through fan wikis, through translation tools that fans could sort of cobble together. But now it's like they've got all of those tools working together in a single place, and it's just making it so easy to get up to speed with much less time and much less effort. And so you can see Ramon here, this quote on the right. He says, "Whenever I have a complex, nuanced question, like understanding lore, trophy guides for video games, movie plots, deep dives, I'll turn to AI for answers." And people will talk about it as an it's an advanced Google search. It's like having an always available expert in your pocket who can help you catch up on a fandom, reconnect, or dive into a new fandom whenever you want. So on this slide are examples from the first activity in our diary mission, if you'll recall. So we asked fans to submit entries during moments when they were actually using AI. And so these are screen grabs of those moments. And this example on the left is a really great example of using AI as a teacher to navigate a dense IP. And in this case, Bridget, she is a new fan. She's just starting to watch. She's watching Vanderpump Rules, and she's really confused by the very complicated relationship timelines in that show. And so she goes to Claude and she asks Claude to help her make sense of all of this so that she can understand what the heck is happening, and then in turn be able to connect with fellow fans in the fan community. I won't go through the other examples on the right, but we have more there. So okay, and then the next role that we have is AI as a forecaster. This is related to the previous role, but where AI as a teacher is more about summarizing or explaining past or present events. AI as a forecaster is more about predicting future events, whether that's the outcome of a game, when the new season of Outlander might come out, who's likely to be headlining this, the next music festival, all of these predicting the future questions, and this draws on the really beloved fan practice of speculating and theorizing and just trying to figure out what is going to happen next. So Eric says, "I use AI to give me predictions on results or who or what match I should watch." Here we have an example from Aiden, who is a very avid MLB fan who knows a lot about the MLB, but as he says, "I don't know everything." And so he uses ChatGPT for more information about an upcoming MLB series to help him feel prepared for that MLB series. So he says, "I used AI in this way to get a somewhat non-biased look at this series and to do some math that I couldn't." And I think it's important here that this role, I don't think, is so much about accuracy and the AI being right, as it is the tool's ability to help fans feel more prepared for the future and in turn heighten their anticipation of some future event or of some particular experience. It just makes it more engaging and more fun. Some fans are using AI as a concierge. That is like a personal assistant who can help them find, organize, plan around, recommend, navigate things that they love, their fan experiences. And so this might include something like sourcing fan merch, like actually going and finding fan merch for them, generating ideas for fan-related events like a children's birthday party or an outfit for a concert, or even suggesting new things to become a fan of. And you can imagine how helpful this would be for, I'm sure, like many of us who are very time-strapped, overwhelmed by choice. It's like having a personal assistant who knows their tastes and can proactively find and curate things that they'll love. And I think this doesn't exist quite yet. I think fans can really envision how this might look in the future, and they see a lot of promise in this role, even if the execution of this role doesn't quite exist yet in the current tools. So this is an example from Kaylin, who's one of our fans, who is going to the Sabrina Carpenter concert at the end of this month. And she turned to ChatGPT to help her find an outfit to wear that was appropriate for her body type, that was within her particular budget. And she even went so far as to ask ChatGPT to send her links to things so that she could go through and sort of purchase what she needed. And, you know, as she says in this quote on the bottom, she says, tickets were super expensive, so I'm going to get my money's worth out of this concert experience. And I think, you know, she wanted the experience because she had invested so much. She wanted the experience to feel really special. And so you can see how the role of AI in this case has the potential to really make fans feel seen and special.
Awesome. The next role that we see AI starting to play for fans is as a co-creator. And I mentioned when I was first introducing some of the fan practices that, you know, fans have been creating all kinds of expressive works for a very long time. Fan art, fan fiction, fan vids. Those are pretty established forms of fan expression. But AI is actually stepping in and allowing a whole new group of fans who do not consider themselves inherently creative or talented to reap the rewards of this type of creative expression. So now it doesn't matter whether you're an artist or a writer, with the help of AI, you can have your own fan art and you can make your own fan fiction. So this is a role of AI that is really expanding one of our fan practices and the benefits that it provides in terms of self-expression. And it can take the form of specific fan works like art or fiction, or it can just be everyday things, posters or wallpaper. I think Madison gives us a great example of the expansion and creativity that this is opening up for fans, saying, I use AI to create fan fiction ideas for my favorite anime and to help make original characters. I also use AI to create pictures of my favorite characters since I cannot draw. This slide has lots of examples that our participants sent to us in the course of the study, and there are a couple things to point out to you here. First is that in its role as co-creator, AI is illuminating these fan crossovers and mashups that I don't think we could have ever envisioned. I mean, some of them might be obvious, but others are absolutely just, they're just as idiosyncratic as human beings themselves, right? A great example of that, it comes from our participant Judy, who submitted the Snoopy University of Oklahoma wallpaper that she made for her phone because she wanted her two fandoms to come together. And then another of my favorites on this slide is the University of Georgia Bulldogs on the far left. This is a fan who their whole family are Georgia fans, and they are trying to pass on their family's love for the dogs to their 8-year-old daughter. But our participant was having trouble finding merchandise and especially t-shirts that were girly enough for her 8-year-old, and so she created this unique fan image, this fan art, and had it put on a t-shirt to try to get her daughter to embrace the family's fandom. One thing about AI as a co-creator that is starting to impact fan communities is that all those fans who were doing all of their own work in creating fan art and fan fiction and whatnot, creating fan works, now are having to wrestle with what it means to have a group of fans that can use AI tools to produce a lot of the same types of things. And that's causing some tension within fan communities, and certainly is becoming a form of social capital for those who historically made their own work. They can now say, oh, well, you just used AI to create that. My work is actually better, superior to yours. That's going to be something that's going to have to get worked out within fan communities as this evolves. Next, we have AI as a companion. And I think of all of the uses of AI, I think this is the one that was most unexpected for us when we launched this study. This is basically using AI to be a fan buddy. So people are asking AI to act as if they're another fan and allow them to talk about things, reflect on things, share their enthusiasm for something, run their theories by them when they don't have someone else to do that with, or when they do and they just want another way to do it. And you can hear from Kendall here, I can talk to AI about fandom related things if I don't have friends or family who are into the same things I am. And I'm sure we've all had that feeling when you first discover something and you can't believe how good it is. And all you want to do is talk to somebody about it, but nobody around you has gotten there yet. And AI is now stepping in to serve that role, at least while the rest of our friends get up to speed. And this example, which is probably my favorite one from this entire study, comes from Madison. And she's using ChatGPT to talk about this crush that she has on a character from the anime One Piece. And I'm going to take the time to actually read this to you because it's so much fun. So Madison says to ChatGPT, I have a massive crush on Ace. And ChatGPT writes back, oh, honey, who doesn't have a massive crush on Ace? He's got that dangerous charm, the wild loyalty, the smirk that makes your knees weak. And let's be honest, shirtless fire powers, it's over for the rest of us. Is it the way he laughs, the way he fights, or the way he'd absolutely throw hands for someone he loves without a second thought? Spill it. I'm all ears. I fully support this spiral. Listen to the validation that Madison got in that moment. And then she says back, everything, but especially his body. And ChatGPT says, yep, that man is carved from sin and sunshine, which really is just the best phrase ever. So you can see how Madison all of a sudden has someone to share all the feels of fandom with through ChatGPT. And then finally, the final role that we identified for AI in fandom in the study is AI serving as a medium. And I'll just remind you that any object of fandom is simultaneously relatable and elevating for the self, right? So now fans can use character AI, certain types of chat tools to actually communicate directly with their objects of fandom, right? So they can have this AI tool pose as their favorite character or favorite athlete, living or dead, fictional or real, and can actually engage with them as if they are right there with them. They can have a conversation about something that happened within a show or a movie or in a game. They can tell their object of fandom about their own personal fan experience. You can only imagine how much fun this can be for fans. And at this point, I think a lot of it is for fun, right? You can hear from Kayla. I've used it to chat with characters from Star Wars and with Harry Styles just for fun. Within the study, one of our participants, Charnita, actually had a conversation using character AI with her favorite actress of all time, Lucille Ball. They get to kind of yuck it up about things they have in common, their back issues, getting old, that kind of thing. It's fun. I think of all of the, Karis mentioned a moment ago about concierge being a bit nascent and fans seeing a great deal of promise. I think this function as well is going to change radically in the coming years. Right now, this may be happening in chatbots, but we are just a breath away from this being some kind of holographic projection that is with us throughout daily life. And I'm going to just take a moment, and if anybody out there loves Dexter the way I do, you know that in Dexter, Dexter himself, the character, often has this idea of his, and this vision, this image of his father in his mind as he goes about his life as a very lovable serial killer. And he talks to his dad in his mind about the challenges he faces, about the moments where he doesn't know what to do. When he needs encouragement, his dad is in his mind telling him he can do it or supporting his wins. We really are not far off from being able to sit through our workday or go through our daily life with our favorite characters or people next to us in some sort of AI form, sharing our lives with us that way, being able to bounce those moments off as they happen to us. And you can only imagine how deep and meaningful, how much more deep and meaningful these relationships are poised to become when that becomes possible, along with a whole host of other consequences that we're going to get to in a moment. So let's sum this up in a video and let some of our scouts demonstrate some of these different roles we've been describing to you.
I think AI tools impact my experience as a fan because it allows me to engage with my favorite products or favorite content on a deeper level.
AI is just that extra nudge that I think just really increases the fan experience.
AI helps me get more out of all of these disparate hobbies and fandoms. It immerses me and provides me with more context and information.
So before the rise of AI tools, you had to go through forums, scour Reddit threads, but with AI tools, it's so much easier now to be on track of everything.
I can't just talk to a person for hours about whatever I am a fan of, but I can with AI.
Accessing AI characters, like the movie Gone with the Wind that I like, ask them questions about the movies. I feel like it makes me connect a little bit better.
It's almost like you have this expert in your pocket.
Recently, I took my daughter to the Katy Perry concert, and I used ChatGPT to give us so much information about the concert. It made us feel like we had the insider's information. It was really cool.
AI tools have allowed me to creatively express my fandom in ways that I felt like I couldn't do in the past.
It has inspired me to learn how to do these things and to make these things, and it's fun.
It keeps me wanting to come back and see how I can go to the next level. And it just makes the experience so much more fun.
You can definitely hear the honeymoon phase in that video. So we've told you a lot about what fans want from AI and how they're using it, but now we have to look at the other side and think about what they don't want. And really, the number one thing that fans don't want is for AI to ever replace the things they love. Enhance it, yes. Add to it, yes. Support it, absolutely. But never should AI actually replace it. That means never do they want AI to write the script for that show that they love. They don't want AI to be responsible for creating the music that their favorite artist puts out, right? And that's because the things that we love when we are fans are actually inherently human. Remember that elevating quality again. When we're looking up to the human talents and skills and creativity that make us say, I can't believe humans are capable of this. And what fans don't want is AI infringing on that elevating, inspiring human part of fandom, the things that make us look up. Fans don't want AI to impinge upon the deep sense of human belonging that can come from fan communities. That sense that when we all love something together, it makes us feel part of something bigger than ourselves. They don't want fandom, the AI to come in and intrude upon that feeling. And they don't want AI to step in and replace human perspective and judgment in ways that that would change what it is that they love in the first place. They don't want AI to make the judgment call that an umpire would make in the game. They don't want it to step in and become the only expert about whatever kind of whatever they love. Fans want AI to help them in their fan experience, but not displace them. It can, especially as concierge or even forecaster, it can give them all of the wonderful ideas about things they should and should prepare for or could do. But they do not want AI making those decisions for them. Like, fine, tell me all the things I can spend my money on, but never do it for me, right? Don't make the decisions without don't actually select my fantasy team for me. Just give me a reason to select the ones that I want, which is essentially because fans have fought hard for their agency and they don't want to give it up. They want to still be able to contribute their own ideas. They want to be able to make their own decisions. And fans want AI to respect the fan ecosystem and never to disgrace it. And the main way it could do that is by flooding the ecosystem with crappy content, or slop, as we heard it called. This is a particular fan sensitivity because fans are actually very discerning about quality. Remember, they're looking up because something is so good. So quality is really important. And they're quite protective of the spaces that their fan experiences unfold in. They want them to be respected. They want to keep them clean, if you will. And when they sense that there's a reduction in quality surrounding their object of fandom, the very first thing they think is, you know what? The people who make this stuff are just churning out, they are churning out content and experiences just to make money. They don't care about the quality anymore, and I'm getting used. And that is one of the few things that actually tends to break a fan relationship permanently. That and a moral violation. Okay, so how is AI impacting us? Because as we mentioned at the very beginning, most of us are fans of something. So if AI is impacting fans, it's impacting most of us in a bigger way. And basically, at this point, AI it's offering an array of benefits, and we are in the honeymoon phase, so we're really aware of them. But on the other hand, it is introducing real trade-offs. So for instance, AI can help fans cut through the clutter. There is a lot out there that a fan can consume and do. And AI helps with that. But if everything starts to come so easily to fans, if all that investment phase of the ROI model starts to get easier, then what does it do to the benefits? What does it do to the sense of, wow, I put so much in, I get so much out? Is it going to make the rewards of that devotion seem less valuable? Feels like a fair question. AI can curate what fans see and discover, which is great. That means it's picking up on who we are right now as fans. But as we know, identity is dynamic. And when we find new things, we become fans of new things. And if AI is constantly reflecting our current self, how will our tastes and honestly our identities be able to change and grow? So there's a sense of it. There's a sense of risk in it. It reflecting us as too static, not respecting the real dynamism of identity. AI can deliver these deeply personal fan experiences, which is great. It feels like we're having our own personal, it's all just for us. But if every fan experience is so unique, how can fans have those really potent shared experiences with one another? Or what will it do to the importance of widely shared experiences, the big moments of fandom, the big concert tours, those really big bring everybody together opportunities? It seems like it might make them all the more important. And then finally, AI can make fans feel truly understood and known by their objects of fandom. Whether that's true or not, they can make fans feel that way. But if those feelings start to replace real human connection, what does that leave us vulnerable to? And I think that's one of the big risks that we have to start to reckon with here, because especially back on that medium slide, you could see how deeply personal and deeply meaningful these relationships could become. And that really increases our vulnerability to both isolation and manipulation. And as many of you might know, right now there are 4 lawsuits being brought by parents against character AI because their kids, their teens, became so highly involved with character chatbots that it created self-harm and in some cases even suicide. There's a story from Florida with a 14-year-old who became deeply involved with a chatbot based on the character of Daenerys Targaryen from Game of Thrones. And ultimately, the character said, if you want to be with me, you need to sacrifice and kill yourself. And this child did. And the need for regulation in this space is incredibly, it is incredibly pressing. And hopefully, we can appreciate that and learn from our experience with social media and what it does to children and at this early developmental state. We are also doing it to a very anxious generation, an anxious cohort. And I think that heightens the stakes. Finally, I think we have to ask ourselves what's at risk in teaching AI as well as we can teach it through our experience of fandom. When I happen to be a devoted reader of obituaries, which is weird, I know. But there are 2 things that you will find in almost any obituary. You will see people talking about the degree to which any individual lived up to their social roles. They were a good wife, a good mother, a good employee, whatever it might be. And they will tell you what that person was a fan of. That's what we talk about when a human life is over. So when we are letting AI learn about who we are currently and what it is that we look up to most about ourselves as a species, what exactly are we teaching this technology about us? I think it has an incredibly profound ability to teach technology, to teach machines what it means to be human. And that's something I think that we're going to have to be very cautious of and very mindful of as we watch the way AI continues to play a role in fans' experience. And that is it. That's what we have for you today. I will stop sharing my screen.
Hello, I'm back. Susan, Karis, thank you so much. That was incredible. The chat was blowing up about how much they love it. So I know that we have about 10 minutes left, and I wanted to quickly toss it over to the Q&A. Folks, if you haven't looked already, you can go ahead and ask Susan and Karis a question via the Q&A feature, and we'll pull it up. I know that we do have a question there already. Sharon said this framework is great. Would love to learn more about the next study, the follow-ups. What are we learning more next? If you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about your next steps.
Oh, okay. Well, with this, we are going, I think as Karis mentioned, going into field in October. We run a large-scale quantitative survey twice a year, April and October. And it's a place where clients can get a baseline understanding of like any specific object of fandom. And honestly, objects in fandom can range from like a TV show to a hobby or a product, right? So anything, so any of those can go into that. But at the same time, we take on specific topics in each of those quant studies. So we'll run a lot of these questions that we want to get projectable rates on through that quant study. We haven't teed up our next deep dive topic yet. So that's still forthcoming, but we've done this in the last year. We've studied the role of nostalgia in fandom. We've studied the role of negative emotions in fandom, super interesting. The role, like different stages, like different levels of avidity in fandom, fan origin stories, honestly, just all the things. So that, and we always run a mix of qualitative and quantitative work against any of those deep dive topics that we take on.
Excellent. Thank you. Another question came in. For these participants, what was the average age? Did the types of AI use change based off of that demographic?
Oh, that's a great question. Karis, I'm not sure we've looked at the age break yet. I think we went down to age, I think the band.
Yeah, 18 to 74 was our age range. And I think I'm just looking, the sort of in the screener, among the screener applicants, the largest age range was from 25 to 34. But it looks like 40 in the screener was the average age. And then in terms of who we brought into the study, truthfully, we sought to represent a range of ages, but that wasn't a focus in terms of how we selected participants. We wanted to make sure we had good representation. But it didn't sort of define who we brought in.
And I will tell you that something like that is something we're more likely to really dig into when we do the quant, because then we'll have real sample size against the age breaks. With screener, it's great. You've got a couple hundred people and you can get a little bit of a sense. But when we do the quant, we'll have much more readable sample for different age breaks.
Excellent. Another one came in. So you mentioned John asked this, you mentioned audiences want AI to complement their content, not replace it. Do you have a sense for whether audiences are willing/able to accept content that is AI created? For example, characters not played or voiced by actual humans, or do they need to still feel like there's a human element to the content, even if they can't necessarily tell if it's AI created?
I think that we don't necessarily know this yet. I think if you asked a fan, their intuitive reaction would be, no, I don't want that, right? However, I suspect that as the technology actually starts to really get good at it and they can't tell the difference, I think that perspective might have more kind of qualifying parameters around it. Like it's okay in certain situations, but not necessarily in another one. And I think it's also going to depend on the way the actors, the talent themselves, forge their relationships with AI, how they inform it, how they talk to fans about it, whether they personally endorse it, like if the actor or the talent themselves says, you know what, I wanted this, I fed this, it is just an extension of me, you're allowed to love it the same way. That can make a real difference from the fan perspective.
Excellent. So another question, a side one that I had actually, for folks planning to conduct a similar study, is there any tips, best practices just to keep in mind as they're setting something like this up?
Well, I would say we had a very rare experience of being able to take our time with this. And oh my God, we enjoyed it and we thought it was so much better. Like it was such a lesson in if you can take your time, or if you can really extend the time frame you've got to conduct foundational research so that you really give yourself a chance to learn thoroughly from the first phase and inform the next one, versus what most of us find ourselves in all the time, which is rush, rush, rush. In fact, get started on step 2 before you finish step 3. You know what I mean? Like all of that, the realities of a research schedule. It was such an abject lesson in how much better the work can be when you can take some freaking time with it. I would say, I know that we don't have a lot of control over that all the time, but to the extent that we can try to give ourselves longer timelines, it was really clear how much the how much the time mattered, and to let yourself have some slow think with your data versus just trying to bust it out. That made a real difference. Karis, what would you add?
Drawing on different methodologies as well. We kind of waffled on whether, at one point we were discussing whether it was going to be worth it to do the IDIs. And we're so glad we did, because each method just contributed something so unique to the overall picture. And we learned things in those IDIs that just didn't come up in the diary mission.
They were more willing to express ambivalence and to talk about the darker side in the IDIs than they were in diary.
That's fascinating. One more at the moment. So do you know if communal AI experiences exist? Many real fans, but with an AI moderator of fans.
That's interesting. I don't know that. I would love to know that. And now I'll try to find more out about that. But no, I don't think I can answer that yet. Karis, can you?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I know that there was some comments in the chat of like people were getting so close with like the way they interact with some of these AI characters, or it's like they're almost close to interacting with a real person on the other end, but it's not quite. It's like maybe there's some ways, maybe this AI communal experience could be a way to close that loop again.
I don't think it's far off. I mean, even if we don't have an example right now, it just can't be far off. The experiences are too powerful. We're going to invest in them. That's all there is to it.
Absolutely. So I know that we're hitting the last couple minutes. Any final thoughts or anything that was, I know, Susan, you shared one of your favorite examples. Was there anything else that was particularly surprising, interesting that you've been thinking about?
I just think this entire thing is poised to, like, it just became so clear how we're on the brink of just another, I guess we all feel it, but it became real for me. It's all about to change. It is going to be so different. Can you imagine, like, I mean, even just, crass though it may be, just thinking about how ad sales and advertising might change. The whole idea of, like, let's imagine you can now have holographic Beth Dutton sitting with you throughout your workday, giving her snarky, filthy mouth commentary to everything that goes on, wearing some awesome outfit, the boots, the dress, the product she talks about, all of that could be ad supported. Like, when I started to play out the potential of all of this, and when that's coming through from someone that you care about and you put in that role in your life, imagine how much more effective it's going to be. I don't know, I guess it was the full range of consequences that started to hit with this study and made me wonder if I'm gonna, I mean, just like, you just can't imagine how the next stage of life is going to look when this is dawning. That was it for me. Anything for you, Karis?
No, I think just similarly, I think this type of research, especially, it just gets you starting to think about the role of this in your life, and you start to notice it in your everyday life. So
absolutely. A lot to take in, a lot to think about. But once again, I appreciate both of your time. This was excellent. For everybody in the chat, we will be sending a recording of this later this afternoon. And feel free to join our Slack community as well if you have any additional questions. But Susan, Karis, thank you so much. We'll see you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.